to start. Thank you. All right. Good afternoon. It is Monday, August 27th at 5 p.m. And we're convening this meeting of the Charter and Code Review Committee at the Life Saving Station in Dewey Beach, Delaware. I'm Dave Lyons, Chairman of the committee, and I hereby call this meeting is being convened in accordance with the rules of the state of Delaware and the town of Dewey Beach. This meeting is also being live streamed via Zoom. With that, we'll go ahead and start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I'm going to go ahead now and do a roll call of the members. Just respond here. Marcia?
Aye. Here.
Jimmy?
Here.
Yeah. Elaine? I see. Hi, Elaine. You're muted, but I know you're here. And Diane?
Here.
Great, thank you. And I do not see David Biron. Is that correct?
No, he just had it.
Here, I'm here.
Hi, David.
Hi.
All right, let's start with town officials. Dawn? I see Dawn there. Jim Dede's here in the room with us.
I'm here.
Thanks, Dawn. Commissioner Persinger is here. And Mr. Zolper is here. Present. Anybody else? Did I miss? I think I got us all. Okay. All right. Next item is to, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Thank you, David. Thanks, Jimmy. All right. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Next item is to approve the minutes from September 17th, 2025. Anybody have any discussion or changes for those minutes? Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. And with that, we're going to move on. I just want to reiterate. So we're going to move to general public discussion first. So I'm going to open public discussion on each of the agenda items individually, and I want to focus our comments on those agenda items as we go. I am going to ask that we keep our comments focused on the specific topic of the agenda. I'll redirect you if anybody seems to go awry. I'll ask you to clarify and focus in on the agenda. And I would like to set 3 minutes per speaker if we're on specific items. If we need more time, we can address it, but I'd like to target 3 minutes to start. Okay? So with that said, are there any general comments, not agenda item 1 or 2, that anyone wants to bring up in the room?
Are you gonna have time to have comments later?
Yeah, you mean about the specific agenda items, or? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what we'll do is as we go through it, we'll talk about them. Anybody on Zoom have any general comments?
Like to save for later.
Yeah, and so if it's related to one of the agenda items, David, I want to bring it up during that agenda item.
Okay, no, thank you.
Okay, we'll have lots of time to talk about the agenda items. All right, so there are no other comments, no questions? Okay, with that, then I'm going to move on to the first agenda item, which is to discuss potential topics for inclusion into town code related to the maintenance and upkeep of properties within the town. The committee may vote to make recommendations to the town council. So we did talk about this last time we started it. This was brought to my attention by the code enforcement group. There's really nothing in our existing code that allows us to ensure people maintain their properties in a way that's custom. There's some things about commercial, but it's not consistent. So the topic suggestion, I'm going to pass these around. These are some pictures this is what we're trying to address. You can see these are just properties that have just become in disrepair.
This is here in town?
Yeah, these are here. I didn't put the address on, but they're right here in town. So this is, I just want to focus, this is what we're trying to address. Other municipalities like Rehoboth and Lewis have adopted the ICC code. And in there's a maintenance, the IPMC, International Property Maintenance Code. So those municipalities have adopted the whole code and then modified it. So we don't have that in our code. So this would be something, my suggestion would be something we would carve out and put into our code around maintenance how properties need to be kept. So we talked about it last time and we tabled it. So now if you're looking, I want to just point everyone to the document labeled Minimum Standards for Property Condition and Exterior Compliance. It's right, you should have it right there, okay? So what I'm going to do is just basically just review some of these topics, and we can bring them up as we go and talk through them. Anybody has any comments or questions? Remember, this is a working draft, so all I need is your input and see if we can come up with something that we'd like to move forward. All right? So basically what we're saying here is the owner of any premise shall maintain all structures and exterior property in accordance with the standards set forth in this ordinance and the building code under which the structure was originally constructed. The owner or their designated agent is responsible for ensuring that all repairs, additions, and alterations are performed in full compliance within the town of Dewey Beach. Code, no person shall occupy or allow another to occupy any premises that is not clean, sanitary, safe, and in compliance with the requirements of this chapter. So that would be kind of a summary headline. So I'm going to go through the topics. I'm not going to read all this to you, but the first one is just general exterior, which basically speaks to the exterior of a structure shall be maintained in clean, good repair, structurally sound and sanitary, so as not to pose a threat to public safety, health, and welfare. External structures should not be maintained so as to cause a blighting problem. All right. I'm going to move on to the next one. Vacant structures. Vacant structures and premises thereof or vacant land shall be maintained in a clean, safe, secure, and sanitary condition as provided herein so as not to cause blighting problem or adversely affect public health or safety. Any comments on that one? Okay.
When we say vacant structures, that means abandoned structures or people just don't live there?
It says vacant structures, not necessarily land, is what this says.
No, abandoned.
Yeah.
We can add that. I just have vacant, not necessarily abandoned. Would there be, I mean, Jim or,
I think a lot of our structures are vacant for
yeah, you mean,
6 to 8 months a year, so
Yeah.
I think it should, I feel like being all inclusive of vacant / abandoned is more that they're
Better way.
not
Okay.
inhabited.
so we'll add that in. Abandoned /
Not really abandoned, though. They still pay the taxes.
Jim or Dawn, you have any comments on abandoned structures?
I would say the general exterior structure probably covers that instead of abandoned. People own it, we do get occasionally we have to contact the owners to mow their lawn
Yeah.
and do that, so.
Mhm.
I don't know that we could say it's abandoned. The cats like them, by the way.
So do we want to leave abandoned or is vacant?
I think vacant is.
Vacant
I wouldn't-
satisfactory?
I wouldn't limit it to abandon. I
Yeah,
think vacant's
vacant.
more
Let's go with
inclusive.
vacant. All right, moving on, we'll say sidewalks and driveways. Sidewalks, walkways, stairs, driveways, parking spaces, and similar areas shall be kept in proper state of repair and maintained free from hazardous conditions. I'd say if you're doing the general exterior, I'm sure that's going to fall in there. So maybe we'll leave it in there if anybody has any comments. Any comments on that one?
Just that I think if we're gonna say they should be kept in that manner, we need to define what proper state of repair would be in some general form. I think that's interpretational.
Yeah.
You could put down that they.
So Jim, people can't hear you unless you come to the mic.
Yeah, I would say you may be able to put something down that may cause a hazard to somebody walking on them, something to that extent.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay, so if we were to say, Marcia, I want to go back to your comment because it says, we say in proper state of repair, maintained free of hazardous conditions, which kind of speaks to,
That they're safe,
yeah,
you know, not necessarily just hazardous conditions,
And
but
safe?
that they're safe for
Okay.
people to move freely.
So get rid of kept in proper state of repair.
okay, kept in proper state of repair. Okay. All right, we'll kept out proper state of repair and just say that they are maintained free of hazardous and safe conditions. Maintained in, that's really what we're trying to get to is safety in this specific instance.
Exactly.
Okay. The other bullet here, and just by the way, everybody knows, this came from the IPMC. I just extracted from chapter 3 these bullets, so I didn't make them up on. So that's one here is no parking is permitted except within the designated driveways. That's in other pieces of our code. It just gets slotted in here, but.
I
It's
can't
already
remember
covered.
if the last time we changed the code, we designated what a driveway was, right? That it had
Yeah.
It's a 9 by-
significantly present boundaries. So it's not just the front yard, is that
Yes, we did.
It's supposed to have.
right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, special guest star
Thank you.
JD's. Yeah, we did. That is
Okay,
specified
good.
in the code. All right. Any other comments on driveways, sidewalks? All right, let me go into landscaping. All premises and exterior property shall be maintained free from uncontrolled vegetation, including weeds or plant growth exceeding 4 inches in height. For purpose of this ordinance, weeds shall be defined as any grasses, annual plants, or vegetation, excluding trees and shrubs that are not intentionally cultivated or maintained.
Come on.
You have a comment, David?
No, I'm sorry. Sorry.
That's fine. We go on here to say this definition does not include ornamental plants, cultivated flowers, garden crops, or landscape shrubs that are actively managed as part of the designated planting area.
My only comment would be that 4 inches is this high. I think we probably don't want to get into that. Needs,
6?
yeah.
6? Does that sound amenable to everyone? Does 6 inches sound like a better? Jim?
Right now, our code says 12 inches, and it's pretty high, so 6 inches.
6 is a good compromise. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go with 6. Last item here is property owners are responsible for regular maintenance to prevent overgrowth, invasive species, or vegetation that may contribute to fire hazards, pest harborage, or visual blight. Comments on that one? Next one is rodent harborage. Structures and exterior property shall be kept free from rodent harborage and infestation. Where rodents are found, they shall be promptly exterminated by approved processes that will not be injurious to human health. After pest elimination, proper precautions shall be taken to eliminate rodent harborage and prevent reinfestation. Any other comments on that? All right. Accessory structures. Any accessory structure, including swimming pools, hot tubs, detached garages, fences, and walls, shall be maintained structurally sound and in good repair. Just similar like the property. Accumulation of rubbish or garbage, exterior property and premises, and the interior, we should take out the interior, shall be free from any accumulation of rubbish or garbage. I'm going to take, and that's my unbiased, I'm going to strike interior for purposes of this because we're really focused on the exterior. Any comments? Lighting and security?
Dave,
Yes,
yeah, Dave, I have an addition to this one,
sure.
a second bullet. There shall be no disposal of garbage or rubbish into neighboring properties, trash cans, or dumpsters without permission.
Okay. Can you repeat that one more time for me, Diane?
There will be no disposal of rubbish or garbage into neighboring properties, trash cans, or dumpsters without permission.
Okay.
I also don't know if we have it in 116, but we probably need a definition of rubbish and garbage.
No, you're right. Okay, we'll add rubbish and garbage.
David, what about the use of, can't use the public trash cans for your personal garbage?
It's gotta be in there somewhere.
What, Bill, any comment on that one?
I think it's already in code. I don't have the in front of me, but
Is it?
it's
Okay.
already in code.
I'll just check it, David, but I think it is there too.
Okay, should we require every resident to hire the trash company?
Don't we,
So the current town code requires if you rent your property, you must use the contracted trash vendor.
Right.
If you decide you do not want to use that trash vendor, you can take your trash away on your own. Kate, correct me if I'm wrong on any of that, but if you rent, you must use the vendor and you must use valet. That's also in the code.
yeah.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, David?
I believe so. Thank you.
Okay. Anything more on rubbish or garbage? All right, good. Let's go on to lighting and security. All exterior lighting fixtures shall be maintained in working conditions to ensure visibility and deter criminal activity. All exterior lighting shall be installed and maintained to prevent excessive brightness, glare, or light trespass into adjacent properties. Lighting shall not be so intense as to improperly direct as to interfere with reasonable enjoyment of neighboring premises. It shall not create a nuisance or hazard to public health, safety, or welfare. Fixtures shall be shielded and aimed downward to minimize light pollution and preserve the character of the surrounding area. Okay. I'm going to strike the next one since it says
Can I
vacant
just
property.
say on lighting,
Yeah, sure.
I'm just not sure about bullet one because,
That's,
it's private property. If I don't want my lights on in the front, if people don't want their lights on, I think the other ones have to do with safety and excessive lighting onto adjacent properties, but I don't know how we can say that your lighting to your house has to be maintained to deter
Fair enough.
things,
I mean, I guess it was intended to be towards the exterior, which we've kind of covered in the first area when we talk about the exterior, but it just has to be maintained. But I agree.
I
We can-
just
we can
think-
strike it here. No problem.
People don't have light bulbs on their front lights.
Yeah. No, and you don't have to light up your house. I don't think we should be
Correct.
saying you have to light your house. I think that's,
I have a comment on that.
sure, Lane.
Is if you have, as we do, residential business, I think we're the only one of the few in town. So the marina, they have lights that it's really important that they're actually on, especially off season and even on season. So I think you'd have to distinguish between, I can understand you not wanting to have your lights on in a private home, but at a marina in town that the lights aren't being put on because, that's I think different.
Yeah, so you're saying this needs to apply just to residences as opposed to commercial? Is that a better way of stating it?
I haven't, I'm not a wordsmith with this, but yeah, I think it's important that the lighting on the commercial is on and maintained in the parking lots, the other areas that could actually, if they didn't have any lighting, could be dangerous.
So,
Safety.
Residential.
Hmm?
We're just talking about residential.
yeah, it is focused on residential, but it's a topic I guess I want to bring up real quickly. In the case of a commercial property, because I remember when we were rezoning some of the things that it came up that the homeowner was upset because the business's light was shining into their house. And so this is intended to kind of speak to light that's not intrusive onto the space. That's really what it's getting to here, as opposed to it just being on. So I want to solicit some comments from that. I mean, the idea is lighting's okay, it just can't be intrusive.
Are you saying for commercial and residential?
Yeah, well, that was the intent, but if,
I think
wanna back it off,
I
you
think
can.
I don't think so. I think lighting is
Right.
lighting.
right.
I'd include it. I would include it for both.
You would
Yeah.
include it for both?
Yeah, it just
So you can
reference
call
it
this
in
as
there.
Commercial and residential?
Only in that section you're
So we
talking.
need to go back. I'm sorry, Jim?
If you apply to that one section, we already have something for restaurants and so forth. We've got that in there, 1 foot lighting, and we've run into issues with that as well. But we do have lighting requirements for commercial
commercial.
restaurants. If you want to impose it on all commercial, that's fine.
For intrusiveness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as to not intrude upon neighboring properties, something to that effect.
So is the
I think
suggestion
that's
to modify the commercial standards?
I
or
think you
just
can put it
just
in
change
here,
this to
and that
be-
would be, your topic doesn't say strictly for residential. It just says
It doesn't,
minimum.
it just says minimum.
Yeah, and you can put that in, I don't see why not.
Okay. Kate?
You have a request for public comment?
Oh, okay. I was going to finish them all. I was going to finish them all and then I'll take public comment. Is that okay? Yep. So next one was drainage and stormwater management. So I guess let me go back to lighting. So I'm going to put this in for both commercial and residential. I think, is that the agreement around the table?
Mhm.
Okay. Next was drainage and stormwater management. Property shall be graded to prevent the accumulation of stagnant water and to direct runoff from structures. Gutters, downspouts, and storm drains must be kept clear and functional. All water generated on a property, including stormwater, irrigation runoff, and similar sources, shall be maintained entirely within the boundaries of the property. Discharge of water onto public streets, sidewalks, or adjacent properties is strictly prohibited. Property owners must implement appropriate grading, drainage systems, and containment measures to prevent off-site flow, ensuring compliance with this requirement.
Well, where does the downspout water go to then? To a dry well? I mean, eventually it's gonna go to the street, to the storm drains.
Go ahead, Jim.
Our current code says that it must be at least 4 feet away from the property lines. And that's for all areas. And we already have a problem where people have tried to discharge it directly onto the street, but it has to still be 4 feet away from their property. It can't discharge directly to the street.
What, into like a green area maybe, or?
It just says on the,
On the
just on the property, 4 feet from the boundary lines.
Okay.
So we've had instances where one neighbor discharged their water onto the other neighbor's yard. And we made a change to support that, to stop that from happening, give us something to enforce. So the intent here is just to give us a little more enforcement capability. All right, we'll just move on to graffiti and vandalism. Property owners shall remove graffiti or vandalism within a specific time frame, maybe 72 hours if that's appropriate, after notification. Any comments on that? All right. Signage and address numbers. Buildings must display address.
Wait a minute. Sorry, I had to get off mute.
That's okay, Diane.
72 hours seems pretty fast. If you're not there and you need to get down there and see it and then figure out how to clean it up and what you need and actually do it.
Want to do a week?
Yeah. That seems like a minimum to me.
Okay. I mean, I think, well, the rule's the rule, so I don't want to leave it out here. But if we say a week, if that seems satisfactory, we can always change it or make another suggestion.
Well, 7 calendar days,
Yep.
especially like in the off season, people
Yeah.
are gone and they need to get back and see what it is and how
Yeah.
to fix it.
I would agree. I mean, the alternative would be that they would need to notify the town of their intention to take action. I mean, I don't know if that makes it
I just think that
easier.
leaves it open-ended.
Yeah, all right. We'll just address that way. Okay, Diane, does that cover it?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go on to signage and address numbers. So buildings must display address numbers that are clearly visible from the street for emergency services. Next one, I probably think, it says
So
signs.
I think there's an issue with that one, because we're saying buildings. There's a lot of houses, I would say, particularly in the north end and more in the south end, that have full hedge fronts. So to just say that it has to be clear on the building, even if you would put them on the building, you wouldn't see them. So they need to be, I think
Just visible from
you
the
need to
street.
clarify it a little more to say homes, condos, townhouses must have numbers that can be visible from the street. I don't want people to think they have to go on the building, because that is not going to help in a lot of cases.
That's a great change.
Does an EMS require by code certain height of the letters and numbers?
I think you better look at this a little further, because there's also places where people might display the number. So say you have an 8-foot hedge in front of your house all the way across. You might display it in a little placard in the front. However, when cars park there, no one's going to be able to see it. And I think it is a problem for emergency services, and probably one of the most critical things we're
Yeah.
addressing is if they're not attached to your building where they're clearly visible, that they have to be clearly visible from a height of something that's above a car level, or where it's not going to be obstructed by cars, anything from the street. So I think we have to add something that says unobstructed and visible from the street.
Okay, yeah. All right, so we'll go ahead, Elaine.
This is an issue we just dealt with in DC and Palisades. And the fire department went around to older people because it's really an issue of growth. Those numbers are usually uh, accessible and you can see them, and then things grow around them. So I just am reiterating, I guess, what she just talked about. They have to keep their greenery off of growing up the side of their building, their place, so that you have access to them. And I guess we don't have that many older people that they have landscapers that can do that for them.
Okay. So I think the intent here is really from numbering is for safety, right? For emergency services, I think that's what we're really trying to get to make sure it's visible. So Elaine, does that address your comment? If the numbers are visible from the
I
street?
don't know, I was just thinking that there's not as much greenery in Dewey as there is in the Palisades in DC. And it's just a lot of numbers you can't see because the landscaping has overcome the numbers. So it's more of just a reminder, a friendly reminder to people to make sure they cut it back if somebody noticed that you can't see the numbers. I don't know if you need a law for it, but.
So thank you, Kate. Found in the existing code, chapter 75, it's under Article 1, requirements and standards. It speaks to displaying of number required, display of the number, incorrect numbers removal, and violations. So I'd suggest that we just drop it from here if it's in that, or lift that code and move it into this section when we insert it.
But doesn't the code, David, doesn't the code require a certain height that you can see it?
No,
from the-
it just says it must be fully visible. Right.
You could have a 1 inch, you could have a 1 inch.
David,
I think the
the
fire
existing
department-
code says the town shall, each building in the town shall prominently display its assigned number so that it is visible from the street.
Okay, okay. So we don't want to set a number, a number to that number. A
No,
height to the okay.
I think I think just making it clearly visible will answer the answer.
Most people want to have them visible.
Yeah.
Not in Carmel, where everybody has a number, everybody wants it to be visible. So I think that's clear enough.
All right.
And
Yeah,
there
I'm
are a
gonna drop
lot
it.
that are not visible.
Yeah, so my suggestion is going to be just to drop this, just from this whole section, just drop because we've already stated to it.
Yeah.
So let's not create conflicting codes, let's just drop it. Next one is outdoor storage and equipment. Inoperable vehicles shall not be stored on exterior property unless fully enclosed. The outdoor storage of boats, trailers, mobile homes, campers, and similar large vehicles or equipment is prohibited on residential property unless fully enclosed with a permitted structure or specifically authorized by zoning regulations. Smaller recreational, such as kayaks, canoes, paddleboards, or similar watercraft must be stored in a manner that's orderly, secure, and not visible from public rights-of-way or neighboring properties. These items shall not obstruct sidewalks, driveways, or create visual clutter or safety hazards. Outdoor storage of materials, appliances, or equipment must be screened from public view and not create safety hazards.
I have a question on that.
Sure.
Suppose people that have carports that you can drive underneath, I've seen like kayaks and canoes hanging from the ceiling outside. And how do you address seeing people keeping their barbecue grill equipment outside?
It is not here, so I'm open to suggestions. I mean, I think if in your case, in the sense of it's in a carport, I'm going to say that's within somebody's home, but I guess if the carport just has a roof and no sides, it's going to be visible to the street. So, anybody have any suggestions for how we might solve that? Jim, do you have any thoughts?
I can only state that we have a lot of homes and townhomes that have open carports as suggested, and they do store that. And be honest with you, we haven't had any complaints that I'm aware of that it's a nuisance. It's rarely when it's totally exposed on grounds.
Right. So is the thought to just change this to be where it's totally exposed as opposed to inside a structure?
I think that's your call.
Yeah,
I just think it's a real tough one on that, because when you say visible from the public right away, and the reality is we don't have garages here in general, and we're a beach town, and we have kayaks and all these things, we have to be a little more reasonable.
so the only question I would have is inoperable vehicles? I mean, is there a concern with inoperable vehicles
Yes.
or trailers or boats?
I think so, yeah. I think that's very different from your recreational stuff that you use at the beach or, you know, kayaks, things like that. I think inoperable vehicles, big trailers, motorhomes, absolutely. But I think we have to be more gentle about, you know, not visible from public right-of-ways, because we all pull our bikes back, our kayaks, you unload them, you put them beside your house. Just in general, 90% of our houses don't have garages.
Yeah,
So I think it's more of the orderly, neat, orderly, than not visible.
I agree. Bullet number 3, I,
Hard to say that.
yeah. It makes it hard to, it's hard to say orderly, right? Then we get into what's defined as
Yeah,
orderly.
exactly.
I guess let me kind of get to the first one, which is if we were to strike smaller recreational such as kayaks, canoes, paddleboards, or similar watercraft, and just strike that bullet.
Or just say they can't be obstruct the sidewalks and driveways.
Right. No, we can say that. We can-
Yeah, and create visual clutter or safety hazard.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll just say that is, we'll just say, we'll take out, stored in a manner secure and public right, so, yeah. And we'll just leave it there from, these items shall not obstruct sidewalks, driveways, or visually clutter or safety hazards. That do it, so we'll strike, it'll read, smaller recreational such as kayaks, canoes, paddleboards, and similar watercraft, shall not obstruct sidewalks, driveways, or visually clutter or create safety hazards.
I'd get rid of visually clutter because, you know, one man's visual clutter is another man's side of their apartment complex.
Yeah.
And I just am thinking right now, when I read that earlier, I have about 10 kayaks that'll have to be moved in our bike racks. And that's the only common area it is, because the balconies up next door, some of them look over that. So it's not, I mean, if we do it, we do it, but I just think that you don't, that's a visual clutter is too vague term.
So I think if we just, I agree, so if we just make it that they shall not obstruct sidewalks, driveways, or create safety hazards, and let it go with that.
Yeah.
And take out the visual clutter. And I guess the other one is outdoor storage of materials, appliances, or equipment shall be screened from public view and not create safety hazards. Any objection to that?
Well, again, I'll repeat, what about the grill? I mean, my grill is underneath the carport against the building. I mean, no one can really see it, but do we need to address the grill?
You know, right now, the way this is written, it's silent on grills. So I'd say this rule doesn't apply to grills unless we put it in.
You know, called grill and appliance.
Yeah.
You can't put grills on your balcony or your deck. So they usually go on the ground somewhere.
Yeah, I guess then, I mean, in that specific instance, if we screen from public view, if I don't have any place but my front yard, that's not going to work so well.
This particular bullet, because we have residential and commercial, is relevant to us, but probably not relevant to a lot of people. If the marina is storing a lot of kind of equipment out and it's not covered or it's not in their area, it can be a hazard as well as being not very attractive. But I think that that's unique to having a grill. I mean, what do people have to put the cover over their grill after they get done every evening? So I'm not sure what kind of materials, appliances, or equipment this refers to.
You know, how does this go? What if we strike this bullet? Anybody have an issue just striking the bullet? Because then we're just really speaking to inoperable vehicles, large boats, trailers, and we're just asking the kayaks and be stored in a safe manner. We don't address the grills. I mean, the only thing we can put in grills would be safety, would be my only thing you could say.
Aren't girls addressed somewhere else?
Not that
I'm
I,
pretty sure they are, but no?
Only that they
I
can't
think
be-
that they're not allowed on balconies,
That's correct. That's the only other area.
I'm sorry, I don't know where.
just that they're not allowed on
They're not
balconies, but I would
allowed
say
on decks.
you know, I would say for this, the only thing that really, if you're trying to eliminate all that, that might apply is materials, and then it's kind of what do you mean by materials?
Right.
So it's like, you just keep digging a little deeper.
yeah.
Take a big axe and go.
I was gonna say, I think we should just cut the bullet, unless somebody objects. Okay. We'll just cut the bullet.
Well, before you cut it, I have a question. If you have, and this would be for Jim, so if someone is leaving rails and boating equipment and things on the property, I'm not having a problem with this, I'm not at all, but there has been in the past. So if I called and said to the marina, you need to clean this up, and they said, we don't have to clean it up. There's no law that says that we can't have this stuff lying here and thrown in a heap. Is there a law that we already have on the books that they would be, you could go over and tell them to throw it away?
I'm not aware of that. I think
Commercial, residential.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be.
if
Yeah,
it's
I
a
think-
safety issue,
Right.
that's a whole different
Commercial
issue, but
driveway.
you're getting into commercial, what's allowed and what's not allowed. You know, we don't have rules that say you have to pick up a 4x6 with nails in it. We don't have those kind of rules. And people a lot of times say we're doing construction, but it takes months for them to complete this construction.
Yeah.
My sense is we would go and talk to the people from the town's perspective if we have a complaint. And most of the time, people are very, very cognizant about neighbors and so forth. They usually comply.
Okay. I guess, Elaine, just to come back to your comment, you're still concerned about, so first problem we've got there is commercial versus residential. And I think this is, with the exception of just the lighting, it's all been residential. The only thing we've crossed over is kind of the lighting. So everything else is residential. And so I
But you
want,
guys have to remember that we are residential commercial. So these rules, we depend upon these laws for 46 owners, because part of what we are is commercial and then residential. So where would we go if we wouldn't go to these for the same kind of issues?
Well, first, if I can answer that, your residential is separate from the commercial area. So you're tied into the residential requirements, even though you're a multi-use. Your HOA probably has something that deals with commercial, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so it's common areas. So that does answer my question. I'm sorry, I'm being, that they have a lease that they have to keep their property clean, so we could rely on the lease. We wouldn't have to rely on. And then I guess we also have trash ordinances that people can't just throw a bunch of trash next to their dumpster and not have it taken away. So maybe we don't need bullet 4, perhaps.
okay, I think that's what we're coming to, as we struck 4. All right. Then let me move on then to energy utility. So can somebody mute, please? We're getting feedback. There we go, thank you. Next one is energy and utility systems. Heating, cooling, and plumbing and electrical systems must be maintained in a safe working order and comply with applicable codes. Utility shutoffs due to neglect may trigger inspection and enforcement. Any comment on that addition? I'm not sure it's necessary, candidly. Nobody has any comment, I'm going to suggest we strike it.
Yeah, I don't know why it would be.
Okay, all right. Let me just go in enforcement, then I'm going to open it up to comment. So what we want to do is, if we create the code, we need a way of enforcing the code. So what we laid out here was providing some standard for enforcing it. And basically, if it's not remedied within a specific time frame, the municipality or authorized representative may enter the property to perform corrective actions. I don't know if we want to go that far. Normally, what we do is just escalating fines. The town would have lien authority and could, in the case of immediate emergency abatement.
So is it, in the case of grass being too high, after we send a certified letter and try to contact the owner of the property, if we get no response, we may go out and cut the grass ourselves and then just have an invoice
Right.
for the property owner. We'll also ensure that they can no longer rent their property. We'll also ensure that we don't issue any parking permits, business licenses or anything for that owner.
Do we actually have that in the code, those that they will be denied a rental?
I
Do
don't
need
think
to add
we do,
that?
but we've been doing that for folks that have been paying their beach tax, right? When they come up to the window to try to get a parking permit or a rental license or a business license, we don't provide it to them.
But I would say one thing, if we don't have that in the code, to say we're refusing to give you a license to operate a business, I think we need to have it in the code. So,
I
right,
think it's in-
Fred?
No, I agree, but I think it is in the code.
Okay, but we should check.
Yeah, I think.
Because I don't think we should deny, because we're literally shutting down someone's business. If it's not in the code, we should have it in the code.
I believe it is in the code with respect to rental license.
So would it apply somewhere else, not just rental licenses?
So I think we're not clear, so I think if it applies around,
Right.
so that the topic of discussion is really what should the enforcement be, you know?
So I'm wondering if we're saying it applies to rental licenses, but if the town is having to go in because they've ignored the conditions, and then they go for another building permit, if we're saying that you'll deny the building permit until these come into compliance or you pay the town back for what they've done, then we need to add that to the code.
I agree with that.
We do,
If you're gonna, well, does it say it in here somewhere? Like what?
not specifically, no, but we do have the ability for failing to get a building permit. We can fine them. That's in the code. They have to have a building permit to operate. And usually we don't go to the fines. We talk to the people. But I tell you, our residents
I
are really
think, though-
good about it.
They are, but I think we're confusing it. I think we're saying, like, if they don't cut the grass and we fine them, they don't cut the grass, we go in and cut the grass, now they owe the town $200 or whatever they owe. They're not gonna get their rental license, but if you don't rent, is it you won't get any other kind of license, meaning a building permit, anything else, because you've not paid the town, you owe an outstanding debt to the town, essentially. Maybe
goes
it's all
under-
encumbering that if you owe an outstanding debt of any kind to the town, you won't get a rental license, you won't get a building permit until the outstanding debt is paid.
Put that
Is
under
that-
the lien authority.
Yeah, it could go under, where it says lien, I'll try and add words that say it.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that all, whatever the town,
If you owe the town
money, or, you know.
money,
Right, you have to clear.
they're not gonna issue anything.
Right. So all your obligations to town have to be cleared before we're gonna issue
Yes.
any permits, building permits,
think that's a
parking
better-
permits. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Anything else under enforcement? No? Okay. With that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to public comment. Somebody, let's start. Anybody in the room have a comment first? All right. How about on Zoom?
Yes.
Hi, David. How are you?
Good. David Moskowitz, full-time resident. And what is being proposed is shocking because Dewey Beach has been around for years, decades, and there's already code that covers a lot of the stuff. So for example, for weeds, it's 12 inches, as Jim Deeds alluded to. And you're just basically going to say, hey, let's cut it to 6 inches and put liens on people's houses. But it's like in search of a problem. So I really believe you should keep it back put it back at the 12 inches. The town in the public right of way doesn't even cut it down to 6 inches. And you have springs where there's a lot of property overgrowth. You have homeowners who come maybe every other week, maybe once a month. They could be coming back to tickets. And the town recently had an issue where they wanted to do snow for 3 inches and it would cost people $1,200. Like, you don't know how much it could cost. 12 inches has been around for all this time. I don't think there's an uproar to lower it to 6 inches. The second thing with graffiti, vandalism removal, you have people who are victims trying to get someone in the summer to fix it, maybe paint over a fence. It doesn't take a week. I mean, it would be 30 days, I would think it would be reasonable, but not 7 days. You'd be punishing the victim by trying to push it forward. And again, if graffiti is a problem, I think the town is in search of money with this, but like, it's just very, very aggressive in talking about liens on people's houses. For the grills, just FYI, it has to be 10 feet away from any structure by state law. So if you're doing a grill, it has to be 10 feet away. That, to me, is fire safety. It's very important. With kayaks, you said people can't store it in their driveways. I mean, if someone has a driveway and stores a kayak instead of a car, I don't see the problem. And that's a little strange. And then people do bring their boats. I have neighbors on Reed Avenue who bring their boat and park it in their driveway. From what it sounds like, that wouldn't be allowed either. But the biggest issue is the light issue, which I experienced because that was my development as part of it. And Dewey right now has a light standard that's been around for 40, 50 years, and you want to just change it in a full swoop by what passed. Right now, it's not, what you're passing is not quantitative. So we're required, like Mama Maria's and us share residential, commercial share a parking lot, and you're supposed to have one candlestick for security, and his own insurance, I'm sure, requires that, like for the driveway, so people don't hit people as they walk out of the complex. So the issue is you made it very vague where it could leave and the light will leave someone's property, it's just to how much is allowed. And it's what's being passed is very vague, and it's just gonna cause issues. Dewey has stuff already on it. I'm not sure if you want to address it, but if you do, you have to be quantitative. I mean, Mama Maria's put the light there. They just tried to do the one. They spent maybe $1,000 with Apple Electric with a crane to shield the light to be a good neighbor, but they're required to have that one candlestick. So you wrote it both ways where it's just going to cause fights. So again, just to sum it up, the lighting standard, leave what Dewey has. Weeds, 12 inches would be great. I don't understand why you're going down to 6. Graffiti should be 30 days, and kayaks should be allowed in driveway. Boats should be allowed in people's driveways too. I think a boat and a motorhome are two different things in the summer. I mean, we live at the beach. And the other issue is grills need to be 10 feet away from any structure.
Thanks, David. Any other comments on Zoom? Okay. I am inclined to take this back, make some changes, and bring it up in the next meeting for us to look at one more time.
Okay.
Any comments? I mean,
I actually agree with a lot of what David said. 'Cause I feel that when I saw the inches of grass, I was thinking, wow, what's that about? And not to make problems, but to look at what we have on the books, because I actually did the lights thing a long time ago. I mean, I do feel it's a little different for marinas. You have to have safety lighting. I don't necessarily agree with boats in the driveway, but I think the other things that he talked about are points that were good points. So I do think we need to go back and compare what we have already. And is it really about whether or not the enforcement ability the town has is what really needs to be worked on?
I'm not sure I agree with the comment that all this is covered in the code, because otherwise, why would code enforcement ask me about something to be able to maintain exterior structures, vacant structures? That's what prompted up you didn't see it, but there's a couple pictures I passed around of homes in the area that have clearly been left to neglect and are eyesore, if they aren't a safety hazard as well. So that's what the intent was here.
Right.
If it's past or too much, I mean, that's what we're trying to get. If
Yeah.
we're going too far, then I'd like to make some changes, bring it back and give it one more discussion rather than try and push something to tonight that everybody's not yet caught into.
And I think some of the comments we made, thank you, David. I think some of the comments, though, we did address it. Maybe David wasn't tuned in earlier in the
Yeah.
meeting because the kayaks and all that sort of went away. We said
Yeah.
driveways were for kayaks. I think as far as lighting, you know, just because we had it for 40 years doesn't make it current to what we have because we have completely changed the structure of buildings here. A lot of them are residential now on the top. We have more commercial. We need to update it.
Right.
So,
I mean, that's why I was in here, was to try and attend, I mean, somebody sat through some of those issues. It was an attempt to try and bring closure so we don't have to deal with those issues all the time. So his candlelight's not lost on me. I mean, some kind of measuring, you know, something that's, it's no good if we can't enforce it, so.
I'd like to make one last comment on the grass.
Sure.
Most municipalities allow up to 7 or 8 inches without mowing, but 12 is really high, really high. So that, I'll just throw that out there.
Thank you, Diane.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I take what you're saying, David. It's true. The reason we're doing this is based upon the fact that we do have abandoned properties and trying to tighten it up. So anyway, I think that we just do have to look at it again.
Yeah, I think, you know, taking this time, we want to get it right, so I'll make some edits, I'll pass it back, and then we'll bring it up in the next meeting and review it again. Sound good? Everybody agree with that? So I just need a motion to table the item for this meeting.
motion.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. With that, we'll close the public hearing on this item. And we will move on to the second item. Okay. I'm going to read it. So the next agenda item is discuss and possibly vote to recommend to Town Council amendments to Chapter 71 of the Municipal Code regarding building permit requirements when repairs are needed for residential or commercial properties. This came up in our September meeting. We made recommendations to the commissioners. They had some discussion. They sent back to us some comments, and I'm going to ask Commissioner Persinger to just address or pose the questions to us as a group to consider. And we can certainly talk to everyone. There is a document that was posted. That's not the right one, Kate. It's the one that says I'm sorry. That's it. Building permit exceptions. All right. Commissioner Persinger, do you want to lead off here?
Sure. So as David said, the committee met September 17th, and just a few days later, the town council had an opportunity to talk about the recommendations that came from the committee. I think there were 10 or 11 recommendations that came from your September meeting, and we touched on pretty much all of those in some way or another, but we spent most of our time on a couple of the specific recommendations. First of all, the major recommendation was to increase the current threshold that's in the town code for accepting maintenance projects that are less than $1,000 in materials cost from the building permit process. And there was certainly sympathy for increasing that limit. The committee recommended increasing it to $3,500. The commissioners really didn't talk about the specifics of the limit at that time, but they did feel that it would be better to shift the basis for the threshold to total costs rather than focusing just on materials cost. It would be easier to administer, and we'd certainly be able to assess in an easier way the potential financial impact of changing the threshold. So that was the first part of our discussion. There was also some discussion about maintenance. We did talk about the definition for maintenance. There was a fairly non-specific definition for maintenance that was included. I think it was discussed briefly at your last meeting, and it was part of the documentation for the discussion that the town council had. And there certainly was some recommendation that we better specify that so that it could be clear to both the town and to property owners what would constitute a maintenance project. The third issue that I'll mention that we did spend a fair amount of time on, and I know there was some discomfort about this issue, and that is the relationship between the town permitting process and HOA requirements. And it seems rather simple just to say you can't have a building permit. If you're in an HOA, you can't have a building permit unless you satisfy all of the HOA requirements. That suggestion caused some concern from our legal counsel, and I will try to explain the position. I think Fred may be there, and so he can correct me on any of this. But the problem is we don't want to put the town in the position of not approving a building permit that actually meets all of the town standards, but doesn't meet HOA requirements. That potentially could put us in the position of being a co-defendant in some sort of legal action, and I think we don't want to put the town in that position. We already have in our building code, or rather in our building application, a signature of approval if you're in an HOA. That, in fact, may be a little bit more than we should have. And we may want to change that to something like a checkoff box that, you're part of an HOA and you have their approval. Or we might want to do something proactive where we would have a list of all of the contact information for various HOAs in town. And we would inform the HOAs that if the town gets an application for a building permit in that HOA, that the town would then notify the HOA that that is the case. And then the HOA could take whatever action they believe is necessary for making sure that its own requirements are satisfied. So that was the other issue that we talked about. Fred, do you have anything you'd like to add on that if you're there?
I am.
Okay.
Do you hear me?
I can.
Yeah. So Gary, I think you did an excellent job of representing what my concerns are. I've had a little bit more time to think about it, and they haven't changed. We don't want to. There are just a great many disputes between HOAs and people who live in communities over development projects, and we don't want to insert ourselves into them. So I think the most we can do fairly is try and confirm that there's been communication, because we don't want to grant permits to someone who is headed straight into some kind of conflict with the HOA. But ultimately, we're not in a position to enforce HOA requirements. Sometimes they're not enforced very well or written very well. They're vague, and we don't need to be a party to those interpretations.
Fred, I have a follow-up question for you. So if by checking a box or I'm going to say self-attesting that they reached out to the HOA, we're not necessarily putting the town, the person who's submitting the permit saying they've spoken to them. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ask is that something that you would find agreeable? We do that today, but I mean, is that acceptable?
Well, what we do today might be ask if the HOA has actually granted permission to proceed with the project, and that might be more than we should be doing. I think if there's anything we can do in the way of a public service by putting the HOA on notice somehow that we've received an application, or ask the applicant to confirm that they have reached out and notified the HOA of their construction project, then I think that is probably about as far as we should go.
Right. So no way is the town going to play any role in enforcing HOA rules? Right? That's really what we're getting to.
No. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm just going to say that I think we addressed this last time, and that was the biggest concern then, that we should stay out of HOA's governance because HOAs are self-governing. In many cases, their standards could exceed the town's or exceed the standards of the state. And in general, those standards are applicable to the community, even though they're in excess, right, Fred? Mm-hmm. So I don't really know that we should go down a slippery slope of even notifying the HOA. HOAs operate independent of governance to the town. Neither has an obligation And I think once you start to say, we're going to notify before you get the permit, then what happens? So we notify and the HOA says, but we're not giving that because that's outside of our rules. Then where do we stand? Do we deny the permit? I don't think we should be anywhere near a self-governing body that governs on its own, separate of the town code. Because I think, Fred, is that a possibility? Even if we say, we're notifying you to let you know this has been, and what if the HOA comes back and says, no, we're not permitting that? What do we do now?
Well, we
We
would
deny
not,
it?
we wouldn't withhold the permit
Okay.
based on that.
Right.
But just notifying an HOA of something can be complicated. Some HOAs are big and they have big budgets and they have law firms that run their zoning, or not zoning, but their architectural review process. But others have people who serve until they move to Florida and then nobody comes in behind them. And we don't, so who do we notify? What is a valid notification? We don't want to be responsible for reviewing these private contractual requirements and making sure that they are met. So we don't want to insert ourselves very far. I think we're all kind of in agreement. The question is whether we should be doing the very minimal or not doing it at all.
Well, I don't know if we're all in agreement because, my case, and which is not a architectural designs, but when you have a leased property and the leased property that the homeowners association actually is the owner of the leased property, and they go for which is how it worked out for us. They went for permits and struck that they owned the property and they had the right to do the building. The town, this was a long time before you, Fred, and a long time before Bill, we had 17, a lawsuit. So the town was not pulled into it, but if we had been notified before they started building, we would have had the lawsuit would have been a lot shorter, but we had to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to stop something that they didn't have the right to do. And we could have had lawyers on it right as we found out. Now that's different than obviously someone that's living in a homeowners association that wants to add a porch to their place or screened in porch. But since it is different and we're saying that we're not necessarily dealing with commercial and all of this stuff appears to be that we're looking at would have impact on Marina View. So what would you say? Would you say that's different? And if in fact a property like Jimmy actually is a good example. Jimmy put in he wanted to add something. He has to go to, I would think, whoever owns the property, right, Jimmy, and get permission first before doing it.
Correct.
And you didn't have that permission, and you went ahead with it. So could you address this while we're on this topic? Because I don't know if we're all in agreement.
But then they contact my landlord, not my HOA, to make sure it's okay.
The town cooperates your landlord,
But not the HOA,
not the
because
HOA.
it's not my property,
Right.
which makes sense.
So the town recognizes long-term leases as being an appropriate property interest to justify the granting of a building permit. And that should come as no surprise because Dewey probably has a higher percentage of these long-term leases than most other communities might have. So if you've got 60 years on a lease, I think you can pull a building permit, and we can't say that it needs to be approved by Rehoboth by the Sea, for instance.
Yeah.
So in the analogy or in the case that Mr. O'Connor just referred to, I don't know that I think we would ask you about your interest in the property, and you would tell us it's a lease, and we would ask how long is your lease, and that might be the end of the analysis.
On the application, they've asked for the owner's name as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but I'm also commercial. So residential and commercial are
Two different animals. I think a suggestion might be, I just feel like from our last discussion, and I think this was my position last time, that we need to be 100% out of the HOA governance. So what could the town do I don't believe it's the town's job to help in any way. When you form a private governing body, it's your own responsibility to determine how you govern it and how you enforce your rules. I don't think the town should be involved. I think at a minimum, the onus should be put back on the HOA, because I think, as Fred explained, there's some that, have very active boards and very deep profits, and then there's just some that nobody pays attention to anything. So maybe, and I'm really in favor of us getting our building permit process automated over the next couple of years to where we don't have the backlogs through automation. But I think one of the things you could do is, I know we publish once a month permits, could we have an automated process by which we could have a program that publishes weekly permits or bi-weekly permits? And it's on the onus of the HOA to know that they can go and check those permits, that somebody on the HOA board can log on any given day and check if any of their HOA property owners have pulled a permit. It still keeps the town out of it and clean. So
You'd have to check it every day.
I have a comment on that, and we do have a monthly list of all permits that were issued that are given to the town commissioners. I don't see a reason, unless the commissioners choose not to put it publicly, it can be put publicly, and every permit we issue is
Should
on
be.
that.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's done
public
at the end of the
anyway.
month. To me,
Homeowners to homeowners, totally understand that. You do not want to get involved in that. But commercial to homeowners, the lease and leasee, I think that when a commercial entity says it's trying to pull permits from the town, and they are a commercial entity, because they're a commercial entity, that the people that hold that lease, even if it's a 99-year lease or 60-year lease, should be notified that a commercial entity is trying to make changes on property. This is obviously Marina View. I don't know if there's other properties like that, maybe a special exemption because of our relationship. But I think that when you're making this law, that it should say something about commercial properties when they're trying to pull building permits, that the homeowners association, whoever owns it, needs to be notified, and you have to sign off on that. It's a lot different than every time a homeowners association has a fight over something that's being done and the town getting involved in it.
Elaine, I hear what you're saying, but I think you're forming a triangular liability situation at any time you're involving one with the other. And I think it's probably more important to do something like Jim did, or we can eliminate the liability situation to just say they're published weekly. They're online, they're published, you can go online. If you own your building, your owner can go online every week and check them and take 2 seconds, and it's the responsibility of the person that owns the building.
Yeah, I mean, that liability ended up being, once they give a building permit to a commercial entity, it makes it even more difficult, where it could be solved at the one-on-one level, because the lawsuits will say, well, the town has approved this. We just never took the town to task for actually providing those permits. We could have done that. That could have been a legal strategy. It was actually recommended. So I don't think that it puts a liability on the town to let the parties know, from a commercial standpoint, that you have to have a signature from I mean, even the homeowners association, does get complicated. I recognize that, but it would have saved a lot of legal bills if we had just been notified at the beginning.
Well,
Yeah, and I agree with Elaine. I mean, a lot can happen in 7 days, much less a month. And there are a lot of HOAs in Dewey, And it seems just rather paranoid to me that the town wouldn't even want to give notice of a permit or an application for a permit. I mean, just giving notice just does not seem to me to be that much of a stretch or that difficult.
What if the homeowner applies for a building permit to do work, especially to the outside, and the permit is granted, but it doesn't convey with the HOA requirements? Like you can't have a pink door and black shingles in a green siding because the HOA wouldn't allow that. And they get a building permit to do that.
But we're not sanctioning, we're not enforcing HOA rules. I mean, I think that's really clear, and at no point are we going to sanction the rules. I think really what we've kind of agreed, what we're asking here is, and the town does not, the town's position is we don't want to get in the middle of the homeowner and the HOA, so I think we've got agreement on that. The question is it some means, whether it's self-attesting that, the HOA has been notified, or if they self-attest and then the town simply sends an email or makes a phone call and leaves it there, and then say, look, we notified on this. I think that's as far as we as a group are.
But if there's three owners in an HOA, and owner A does all this stuff to the outside on their own, they get the building permit, and how do we know? Unit B and C, let's say, they go, they can paint their house green, but we didn't know about this, and it doesn't convey with the HOA scheme. What recourse does B and C have against A?
I think that's what he just said, that the town doesn't have a rule on
Right.
those kind of things. You just have to look at your documents. And then the homeowners association would take legal action if they wanted to,
Right.
whatever's in their docs, against their owner.
Right.
They wouldn't bring the town into a lawsuit at
No,
all.
I hear you. So the permit gets issued and they can say, well, I got a building permit. I'm going to paint it any color I want. So take me to court, I guess, right?
Oh, and they can do that.
I mean, they could,
They're right.
certainly they're right to do that if that's.
Okay.
But I think, we just want to be clear. I think, Fred's counseled us. I think we've kind of heard it. Like, I do want to be, I hear from HOA presidents, people that some way of being at least in the loop or being notified without without us standing in the way of what's done. I personally don't think that's too arduous for the town to do. I think they probably do that already. But I am fully in agreement that we're not going to support or enforce HOA rules, for sure.
Can I
But
just,
I'm sorry, but are we saying is at least the building department going to notify the HOA that a building permit application has been submitted? And if you want to come look at it before it's issued, you have that
No.
opportunity?
I don't think that's what we're suggesting. All we're suggesting is a phone call or an email to the HOA saying, we've received this permit.
can
Well, that's
I
what I just
actually
said.
just add why that is potentially a problem if you look at the unintended consequences? First of all, it's kind of a multi-layered approval. So that means the town has to know who's on the HOA board, who's identified, are the contact information correct, is the phone number correct, is the email correct, is that board member still on the board? Is that the person that's supposed to be responsibly notified? So then we're creating another layer of database that we need to have about that HOA, and who's going to keep that updated to know that we've, now there's a situation where we say, well, we notified Mr. Jones, who was on the board 3 months ago, but he's not on the board, and we didn't get any response, and we say to protect ourselves, so if we don't have notification within 3 days, we proceed without notification. I just think you're going through all these layers.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting that, but I'm just suggesting not waiting for feedback. What I'm hearing from Elaine and Diane is, I think, and Elaine or Diane, please step in here if you feel differently, but just their concern is, without knowing, there's no way for them to, from their perspective, without being informed, how are they supposed to know? Just like if I'm a property holder and a commercial, we reach out and say, we've got this request. So because I could go one more for in a HOA or a condo, there's some joint ownership of the property, right? And so at what point is everybody there have some interest in what goes on in the property?
This is like
Yeah,
my Situation is very different than just a homeowner having, the town having to police. But it is 46 owners and 46 voters that were impacted because a permit to start building was given to the town, which later through all the courts in Delaware, we won. They shouldn't have done that and they can't use it for what they did. But if we had just found out in the beginning and we had gotten our own lawyers, and this is, and we'll probably never have to deal with it again, but I do see it a big mess in asking the town to be responsible for keeping a database of presidents of homeowners association. Now, I don't know if they still do it. They certainly did it for a long time, that for emergency situation, you're supposed to provide that information to the town. So any activist homeowner association, if they provided their information and an address was provided in one line when somebody was applying for an application for homeowners associations, for I don't know why, whatever you, I guess it depends on how big you like townhouses and stuff. I use Diane Hansen as an example sitting there. If her neighbor was notified that she was going to, I don't know who the president is, but something was happening. I mean, you could get into a situation where the homeowners would legal suits, a lot of legal suits, because they're stopping homeowners association individuals, owners from doing something they want to do. So I can see the fear in that, but my case was totally different. So I do think that a distinction of commercial property needs to be in this versus me fighting for homeowners associations to I can take care of my own homeowners association. We do all of that. We're not looking for that. But commercial wise, we could have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars if we had been at least notified at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah, and just quickly, I think I don't think it's asking too much for the town to make best efforts to contact someone in the HOA. Generally I found when they want to find us, they can. And I'm struggling with the concept of saying, no, we cannot notify you because we're afraid we're going to be sued. I'm just not buying that.
Thanks.
Jim, give us an alternative that we could go online and look at who's pulled if you have a particular issue. I mean, I wouldn't even be looking at that because I don't care, because I deal with we deal with our homeowners association and we know what they're doing, and we have our own bylaws. So it's really not that. It's homeowners when they have commercial, so it's separate. I just want to underline that. But I do want something for the future in our code that protects homeowner associations when they have commercial properties attached to their to the property.
Okay, I'm going to pause it there. Jim, did you have another comment?
I just had a comment. Right now, our applications say, if applicable, you are to contact your homeowners association, but that goes to the property owner, and property owner is really responsible for telling us the truth. Now, we do ask them, and we will ask again. We ask people to make sure, if you have an HOA, have you contacted them? If so, we just need a signature to this. But if they refuse to do a signature, that puts the town in an very awkward position. Do we deny? What are we denying it on? Based on what? And I think Fred alluded to that, is how do we deal with somebody who says, I really don't want to sign my HOA to sign, and I'm telling you I'm okay.
Well, Jim, that's where notice comes in.
Well, okay. Well, if the notice, as far as at least from my standpoint, we can publish every month and have everything out. I can make it every 2 weeks. It's not that difficult. But the HOA should have some responsibility monitoring themselves, not the town. And I think it's going to create an undue burden on us, where right now we don't have that undue burden. People comply. People are very reasonable that we deal with. And, there are times we issue a permit and then the HOA says, well, we didn't approve this specific issue here. Well, we don't get into all that. And we double check with the county. They don't do it either. They just say that's between the HOA and the property owner to monitor themselves. We'll issue the permits. So
Thanks, Jim.
that's all I have.
Is there any, any other public comment? Because I think there is. So, who do we have on? On Zoom. Okay, on Zoom. Who do we have? I think, David, did you have a comment?
No.
Yes,
Oh,
David Moskowitz, full-time resident and also for better or for worse HOA president. And it's what's being talked about is like painting colors and whatever. That's the low-hanging fruit. No one really cares about that. The bigger issue is if someone tries to add a structure to the a place, like someone in my development wanted to add a roof deck, and that would actually compromise the roof and cause master insurance not to be covered. So there's small things like painting, but it's the bigger issues that people care about, like structures in HOAs. And I just want to propose some sort of compromise. And right now, your building permit form says I certified I'm the owner of record for this property or have been authorized by the owner of the record to make this application. So it applies to someone like Jimmy who doesn't own but rents. And then this information is true and correct to the best of my knowledge. Why can't you add a sentence? If the property is subject to a homeowners association, I further certify that all required HOA approvals have been obtained. So this way it's a signature. And then if it's it involves a structural repair, like adding a roof or something very big, just let the HOA development know. Like, honestly, if someone's painting, they probably won't even get a permit anyway. Who knows? Or puts different siding, something. But people care if they have a connected roof and you add a structure or something large. So, and the reason why it was put on the form was because there was a lawsuit and the town was almost roped in because the mayor's brother was being sued and the town gave permission they shouldn't back then because most of the people have turned over except Jim. So I think it's very important to have some sort of HOA permission and knowledge or on the form. Like, it's why people, if Jimmy is renting from Harry and has to sign that he's acknowledging that permission, why shouldn't someone as part of an HOA have to sign acknowledging that permission as well? It's the same thing.
So if we take, thank you, David. If we kind of take that route for a minute, it doesn't leave the town in the middle of it. It's just somebody self-attesting that they've met the.
well, I think it protects the homeowner too. You know, my situation that we're dealing with now, I had no idea until 3 weeks later when we went down there and we saw the construction going on. We had no idea a building permit was issued, and we had no idea until we happened to go down there.
Okay. Jim, you have to follow.
Dave, just to make it clear, no building permit was issued regarding the footings. I just want to make that clear. Okay?
Right, and that's even another problem. You know.
I understand. Let's stay on topic here for this one. Gary, did you have anything else that first of all, has anybody have a comment on this? Okay, Gary.
The only other thing I would add here is that in terms of preparation for what we want to discuss in just a couple of minutes here, you know, translating a $3,500 material limit or threshold, which is what the committee recommended, and just did a little bit of research and came up with a ballpark of about $10,000 in terms of total cost. You know, there's obviously no correct answer. Any given project it could have a wide variation in terms of the split between materials cost and labor costs, but just on average, $3,500 seemed to be a reasonable translation to $10,000 in terms of total cost. So that's why we have that figure in there today.
Thanks, Gary. Is there any more public comment? Anybody in the room want to make a comment on what we've got here so far? No? Okay. All right. Any other comments on Zoom? Okay. I'm not sure we're going to come to some conclusion on the HOA, but I want to go through at least the other permit information and get some feedback on that. So what we're going to do is there's another document that was posted. It is called, I think it's Revised Recommendations for Review. We should have a copy of that. So this is just a draft working document that want to be clear, it is a document to be discussed, but it's an idea of kind of a way of focusing some conversation, all right? That's the intent here, so wide open to make any suggestions or changes. So the first aspect I wanted to address was, what is maintenance? Because we really don't have a definition into maintenance, and this will make more sense in just a minute, but let's just kind of look at putting maintenance into the code. It's basically what we're going to suggest here is a definition for maintenance, which says, shall mean the ongoing duty of every property owner, operator, or occupant to keep all buildings, structures, premises, and accessory facilities in a safe, sanitary, structurally sound, and functional condition consistent with the requirements of the Town of Dewey Beach Code and other applicable standards. Maintenance includes both preventive and corrective actions to preserve the property in good repair, protect the public health and safety, and sustain neighborhood character. Kind of repetitive there, but that's the sense, okay? Now, one of the things I heard in the commissioner's discussion is one person's maintenance is not another person's maintenance. So what I've tried to go through here is actually define standards for maintenance, what actually is considered maintenance. So repainting walls, trims, or exterior surfaces is considered maintenance. Once again, these are working statements. Refinishing or replacing or refinishing flooring, carpet, tile, hardwood. Repairing drywall, patching nail holes, minor cracks, updating fixtures like light switches, faucets, cabinet handles, doorknobs. That's for you, Diane. Replacing windows and doors of the same size without altering structural framing. Roof or siding repair not exceeding 25% of the existing sheathing. Cleaning or power washing surfaces. Replacing window treatments or decorative elements. Minor appliance or HVAC component replacements, non-structural alterations that are allowed for patios, concrete slabs, decks, and decorative hardscaping, replacing cabinets or countertops with like materials and size. Now, I just want to say that's what we define as maintenance. I want to come back to the dollar limit in a minute, but that's what we're talking about, what we talk about is what maintenance, what falls under the topic of maintenance. So I'd like to get any comments or feedback on those items.
I'll make one comment. The decking, I think it's too broad as far as maintenance. And I'm going through that now also. So what do you mean maintenance of decking? Replacing a couple deck boards? Are we replacing railings, framing that's deteriorated? It's pretty broad.
So David, your suggestion would be, instead of this non-structural alterations, would be to frame up something similar to like the roof or siding replacement with a percentage?
Well, I mean, it's the example with decking, it's pretty broad. It could be, support wood members underneath. Column.
I just want to stop you for a minute. This is nothing structural. So at no point is anything here structural. So if you're doing anything structural, you're not doing maintenance. It's not maintenance.
I think
And
it's
also, I think we fall back to the $3,500 on that. So
Yeah, I'm gonna,
it covers it.
yeah, so I'm gonna go to the other thing, but
Or
maybe
whatever.
that will cover that issue. So we'll take everybody through it, but that's kind of my thought. So I guess that's why we say non-structural alterations are allowed for patios, concrete slabs, decks, and decorative hardscaping. Now we're gonna fall into the dollar limit in a minute here. So I'm gonna ask if we can park that for a minute, David, and once I go through the dollars, we'll see what
okay.
what attracts, okay? All right, any other comments on my standards, suggested standards? All right, so let me go,
I just have one comment.
go ahead.
I just wish that some of the standards that you have listed here do require permitting, whether we do it or not. County requires them. So I just want you to understand that.
Yes, I agree. So the first thing under standards for soliciting a permit, it's exactly what Jim spoke to. Even if the town building permit's not required, all work must still comply with applicable building and zoning codes required by the town, county, and state. Good. Okay, that's in there, that's gotta be, okay. Yes.
Well, how do you enforce that if a permit's not required?
I'm,
David, you're missing it. Certain things do require, for example, replacing windows. People consider that a maintenance thing. If you choose to go more than 2 windows, county requires a permit to be placed.
Okay.
If you do maintenance, and let's say you want to replace a shower stall in your bathroom, they require maintenance, a permit for that.
Now, the irony is, if you're replacing your entire kitchen, the county doesn't want a permit for that.
Wow.
We don't make the rules, that's what they do, so we have to enforce them for the county.
Right.
That doesn't make sense because the kitchen, you have plumbing, electrical, just like
Totally.
the bathroom, you know?
Absolutely.
Right.
You are absolutely right, and we've pointed it out. It's their rules.
And I want to cautious, we're not going to change the county. So I don't
Right,
want to
right.
get into the paddock of trying to regulate the county or the state. We won't win that, we'll waste a lot of time.
Yeah.
So did you have a question or comment?
Yeah.
Just
so,
to introduce yourself, your name and address?
Ellen McIntyre. And I just had a question about, for the minor appliance, would like a Ring doorbell, something like that, be like go under that category?
I would say no, not a Ring doorbell, but
Wait, so, okay, I think I'm,
so we're just, I guess I would say this. Yes, a Ring doorbell would be a minor maintenance issue. I'm sorry, I misstated. So yes, it would be. So what we're saying is that would be covered under maintenance.
okay,
Does that help?
yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. So now we're getting to let me read the next bullet. Any service, repair, or routine work described as minor property maintenance that is less than $1,000 in materials and labor requires no notification. Work can begin immediately. That's one suggestion.
The issue with that would be within the 100-year flood.
Yeah,
Which
and
goes
here,
to a whole nother-
here's where
I
it
said
gets.
permit, I didn't say application.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Here's where we run
Thank
into
you,
it. I
Dave.
mean, they can do, we would need a permit. And the reason I say that is the FEMA requirements say that anything that you do there requires an application and a permit. Now, if we have a code enforcement officer, somebody's out there doing work, we don't know if it's legitimate or we don't know if it's absolutely out of whack. So that code enforcement officer is put into a bind as to, well, what do I do? They're saying it's minor, we have no permit here, so we don't know. So there's work being done. We don't know if the person's got a building permit, a business license. And it puts us in a very awkward position from the town's perspective. And trust me, we do get neighbors that complain about work being done. Did they get their permit? So we go out and we try to verify this information. So we're always in a bind. Our advice is call us and let us know and we'll deal with it. And there's some that, somebody says, I'm painting $100. You don't need a permit. And we'll let it go if he's not in the FEMA flood zone. We don't even ask, give him a permit.
Right, if it's in a non-flood zone.
All we want to do is let us know what you're doing. It's an honor system, no matter which way you look at it, because most maintenance is done by the property owner.
So I'm going to I understand what the town's position is. I certainly understand the flood regulations for FEMA as well. I'm just going to, what I've heard from other homeowners, and I just want to speak to that is, why do I need to call the town if I'm painting the inside of my house? Or if I'm changing a doorknob, why do I need to call the town? So
We don't ask for that.
no, I know, but see, but the problem is, how do we have something that can be consistently, that everybody understands? And I think that's what we're trying to get here in this. Now, maybe this isn't the right way, but that's what we're trying to get to, is some consistency that both meets the town's requirements to be able to enforce it, FEMA requirements when we need to, and be able to preserve the property owner's ability to maintain their property. So
Dave, could I interject
Gary.
something, Dave?
Mhm.
This was actually a suggestion that I made in discussions with Dave. That we've had some concern about people needing a building permit if they want to put a Ring doorbell in or they want to change a doorknob. Something that's very minor routine maintenance. There is specific language in one of the FEMA guidance documents. It is a manual for the floodplain administrator. It's dated 2005, so it's about 20 years old. And it does talk a little bit about possible exemptions from a building permit process, or I think they call it a floodplain permit. And they suggest that any municipality that wants to create these kinds of exemptions must be as specific as possible. And one of the ways of doing that is to use a dollar threshold. They suggested $500 as a possible threshold. I decided to because of inflation that reports 20 years old, that $1,000 might be a reasonable threshold. It just seems to me that there should be some way of relieving people of having a building permit requirement for projects that truly are really simple maintenance projects that have no possible impact on the flow of floodwaters, even if it's in a flood zone. Maybe our conclusion is we can't do that. Maybe there is some, legal interpretation that we feel restricted from doing that. But because of that language in the FEMA guidance document, I thought it was a reasonable suggestion to consider.
So I want to go to my next bullet for a minute, Jim, and then come back to this. So my next one that I created a category for is called intermediate maintenance, which is what in parentheses, notified maintenance work. And so this defines as any maintenance activity that is greater than $1,000, but less than $10,000, materials and labor, requires town notification. Email or new form, and approval acknowledgement from the town before work is proposed. So we're not saying no, because I hear the town needs to know what's going on. So what we're just saying is from the $1,000 to the $10,000, you gotta let us know. And that's kind of a way of stepping out. So what we're just saying is less than $1,000 material and labor, we don't have to tell the town, but more than $1,000 to $10,000, you need to tell the town.
So are you suggesting they don't need a permit for that?
I would.
An application and they're exempt from
Permit fees?
3% fee?
Yes, that's what I'm
Okay,
suggesting.
I mean, I just wanted to.
That's my throat, that's what I'm suggesting. No fees, just a notification.
Just one question, if Bill or Jim had it. How much did we collect total in permit fees last year? Roughly.
I think it was about,
I can help you with
I
this.
think it was 600,000 or 700,000.
Of the permits issued.
Okay.
Of the permit, 2/3 of the permits issued contributed to $30,000 worth of revenue.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was my point, going back to $31,000 where 303 projects were under $10,000. That's a lot of town resources and labor for a very tiny part of the budget. We're not gonna die over $31,000, but we can eliminate 303 projects, permits, permitting, clogging up the town for, I'm changing deck boards, or it's $5,000. If we have the automated system, if you say notification, system of notification, that it can be automated, I mean, you're right, it's about 3% of our total income, but it was 303 projects.
Right.
With $600,000, what we budget for building permits.
Right.
600,000.
600. So I just want to, to be honest, that was my intent here in trying to carve this out.
Yeah.
Is the ability to keep the town notified, reduce the workload to the town, and still provide some relief to the homeowner in terms of the process. So maybe that's what the thought is.
Because I think that's a great way to do it, because I think the balance is, and I know you can't go back and look at it, but I can assure you, in my opinion, 303 permits that were issued for under $31,000 in income is costing you way more than the $31,000 in labor hours and human resources. And it's clogging up all the permits we really need to pay attention to.
Truthfully, it's not clogging us up. I
Our
have to
turnaround
be
permits
honest
in
about
about
that.
2 days on most permits.
Yeah, our
It really
permits,
is a good, for the small projects that we have, they get looked at, they get put in. If they're filled out properly, if the form is filled out properly and the estimates are attached, right? If all that's done and it's done properly, we can turn them around in about 2 days. It's when we have to go back and they don't have a survey where they're gonna put a fence in. We have questions with Jim or Dave look at them. That's what really slows it down when they're not filled out properly. And I think we talked about that at the last meeting.
Yeah, I think Marcia's idea for an automated system would definitely help something like that. And I think that's.
And those projects need permits anyway, because they're putting fence in on a line that needs a survey.
Exactly.
So,
And I just want to be clear, even if you fall into that category, you need to be able to substantiate to the town the dollar figure in terms of labor, and the town reserves the right to go back and, well, in this case, you've got to tell us, you're submitting something, but the town reserves the right, even in a if someone were to call into question your minor maintenance that's less than $1,000, the town, you'll see here, still reserves the right to be able to challenge you and say, you got to prove to me that's under $1,000. Okay, let me go on to the next one. Any property maintenance or improvement exceeding $10,000 in combined labor and materials shall be classified as permit threshold activity and subject to review under applicable building and zoning codes. This will include such things as surveys, architectural drawings, blueprints, as well as materials and labor costs. So basically what we do today. So the threshold moves to, if it's $10,000 or more, it's traditional permit application, permit process, review, everything goes through.
Dave, I have one question. Are we qualified enough to know estimating of construction labor and material, to know that's a true value? When the homeowner knows, the parameters to be under a certain value, do we really know the true value of work?
So our permit dollars that we issue today is based on the total cost of the project. I think the town challenges it if they don't believe it's correct.
We also have contracts that are submitted to us. Some
But if a
people like
homeowner's
to do
doing,
it.
but if a homeowner's doing it themselves and it's a maintenance deal, but it's really not a maintenance deal because they know how to play the game, are we qualified enough to know what really construction costs them?
I think we're knowledgeable enough to know when, pardon my English, being scammed, that if somebody is building a 30 by 40 deck and he says the materials are going to cost him $100, I mean, we know that isn't happening.
Right.
So we do challenge some of that, but for the most part, it really is an honor system, and we believe our residents are being truthful.
So we don't go out there when this application or a maintenance application is submitted just to verify that we're not building a 30 by 30 deck under a maintenance request.
If it's a structure like that, there will be an inspection.
Right.
No, most maintenance, no, we do not go out and monitor.
So David, this is where we're coming back to a structural change. Basically takes you, you're not doing maintenance anymore. If you're doing some kind of a structural change, you're not doing maintenance. You're building. Okay.
Right, that's the point,
Yep.
It's,
So I'm gonna state the other one. I know we don't agree on this one, but it's what I wrote up here, which is any property owner undertaking permitted work on a parcel governed by a homeowners association or condominium shall attest that the property activity complies with applicable HOA or condominium standards and regulations. That's what my suggestion is that they attest. We don't enforce. The homeowner simply says, yes, I got it. Put it on the homeowner.
And can I just add that, honestly, the way the HOA can deal with that is they can amend their documents to say that the property owner must attest to the town. I think it's putting it back on the HOA so that if we add that in and the property owner attests and the HOA has some balance to enforce a regulation to that, then again, we're not part of it, right?
I think that's the goal. I think that's the sentiment.
Can I ask a question of Fred? Can we deny a permit if they refuse to do a test?
If they refuse to attest to the value, absolutely, I think we can. I think that's a totally appropriate requirement, that there be an attestation from someone as to the value of the work that was being done.
The question really deals with the HOA.
The test that,
Attest that
Right.
they don't want to attest anything about an HOA.
That they've notified
Yeah,
or
that they-
are in compliance.
They're saying we're in compliance, but we're not going to notify the HOA. What would you advise them now?
I would say if push came to shove, we can't deny a permit based on failure to obtain approval from an HOA.
Okay. I want to just move into a minute because we mentioned floodplain, so there's just some other topics here on floodplain. Maintenance activities are defined above, which I read above. In accordance with FEMA regulations, any maintenance effort must not increase the structure's market value by 50% or more, do not involve expansion, elevation, or enclosure of the structure, do not compromise flood-resistant design or materials. The town reserves the right to review any claim maintenance activity to ensure it does not meet the threshold of development or substantial improvement. Those are FEMA's words. Under the NFIP regulations, if the work is determined to be substantial improvement or otherwise regulated development, the property owner shall be required to obtain the appropriate permits and comply with all applicable floodplain management standards. Failure to comply will be considered a violation subject to enforcement rules. So we still recognize we still have to handle the requirements for the National Flood Insurance Program. Let me just go on quickly. So enforcement, The town reserves the authority to request documentation verifying any maintenance project, regardless of whether the project was formally submitted for review or approval. The town reserves the authority to require documentation verifying that a valid business license has been obtained. I'm not going to go into whether or not what the level is for a business license right now, if that's what the rule is. So I'm just going to leave, we're going to leave that in place. The town shall conduct inspections for all work performed under an issued building permit. The property owner is responsible for paying a fee equivalent to the cost of inspection required for permit verification. The town retains authority to designate an inspection official. So
Okay, but our town doesn't conduct inspections. The majority of our inspections are conducted by the county, so we have to,
that's the change I'm suggesting.
yeah.
I'm suggesting a change.
Oh,
Because I think
okay,
one of the things I've
sorry.
heard, that's fine, ask the question. One of the things I've heard is a frustration that how do we know what was permitted was actually built? And I've gotten feedback about it did comply and we didn't catch it. So my suggestion here that Gary and I came up with is we're going to build inspections into the cost of the permit. The homeowner, the property owner is basically going to absorb the cost of the inspection, and the town retains the authority to delegate who does it, whether it's them, whether it's an outside party. That's the suggestion I've written here.
So that would mean the town would either have to hire a qualified inspector, an outside contractor to do that, or hire somebody internally, which will be costly.
Okay.
But go ahead. So just to your point, the reason of embedding it in the permit.
I get it,
Is
but-
that the town's not picking it up, but the property owner is.
It's built in, I understand that, but that's going to increase our budget. And I know
The-
you're talking about revenue coming in, but full-time employee is going to be costly.
I just want to caution that if we start doing structural inspections and so forth that go in there, we're going to probably lose the county's, we have a memorandum of agreement that they will process and do all the internal inspections. Clearly, we do not have the capacity to do that.
Right.
And I think all the efforts of reducing costs may become a cost issue for the property owner, more so than a 3% permit.
So I guess I'm going to come back and ask, because I say this a lot, I say it to Bill, but if we're going to write a permit, how do we not know that what we issued the permit was the work done? Whether it's the scope of work, whether it's the materials used, how do you not go through and enforce the permit you wrote? Take away the labor concept for me, and I agree with you. If the town's doing certain things, the town, I'm not suggesting we would take away from the county, because we do have an agreement on structural things. But how would we not, why would we not issue a permit and then enforce that it was done correctly? And I'm talking about big projects here, right? I'm not talking about, I patched my garage.
On a residential permit, we do go through that. On new construction, we do go through, we make sure that the bedrooms are where they're supposed to be. We don't do the structural, but we make sure what they put down on the application is what was built. We look at the setbacks, we look at all that, and we do go into the homes. So before we issue a certificate of
CO,
occupancy.
right.
So we do that on the bigger projects. Small projects, if it's we count on the county to do the inspections for structural. And sometimes we'll go into a house, believe it or not, a lot of times the homeowners want us to come in and take a look at what they've done, and we'll go in. But no, for the basic, if somebody's going to get an HVAC system, no. The county doesn't even inspect that. That's between the electrician and the homeowner.
And my suggestion would be, if it's a maintenance, my thinking there was if it's $10,000 or more, we're going to have some kind of enforcement. That's the suggestion what's written here.
Well, and the county does not inspect renovations. They leave that up to the town.
Right. So there's basically no one enforcing that kind of work.
Right.
Look, that's an issue that it's above my pay grade. That belongs
No,
to
I
our
appreciate
town
that.
commissioners.
Right.
And if that's what they want and that's what they approve, we're okay with it.
Right.
And if they want to, the increase or taking away fees, we're okay with that as well. We don't have, dog in the fight here.
Right. No, I understand. I appreciate it. That's why, we want your input. I think it's important to hear. There's two sides of the story. The last thing here is the town shall maintain records of all intermediate maintenance or permit threshold activity, building permits issued over a 10-year rolling period. If a property owner is found to have conducted multiple maintenance activities, which when considered cumulatively constitute a work requiring a building permit, the owner shall be subject to enforcement actions or permit noncompliance. I realize that's more than we do today, so I just want to state that out.
Isn't the purpose of a building permit is to protect the homeowner with the contractor to make sure it's being done right per code? And if we're not inspecting that work, we're not protecting our homeowner who's paying for the permit. And my other question is, how does DENREC tie into this whole process of approvals and permits and inspections?
DENREC is responsible for anything from 3 houses into the dune line. They require notification of any construction that goes on. Regardless of where you are, they go by that, and we ask the property owner to get a clearance from DENREC to do that. That's part of their ordinance, and that deals with the dunes and the water issues in the beach. So that's how they get involved in that. If you want to build a home or you want to do a major renovation on that, you're required to get a DENREC. We ask the property owner to get a DENREC approval.
Is that one of the requirements when they pick up our Dewey building permit to fill out? That's one of the requirements in the
They're
package?
told, they are told, and we ask for it, and, to my knowledge, it's all we get a package on the first 3 homes on the from the dune line.
So basically what we're saying, anything in the dune line, DENREC gets involved, right? I assume.
Well, the dune line is basically it's a no building line. And they've said to go back 3 homes, and that's what we do. So
Okay.
homes 3, they got to get it.
Houses, you said, 3 houses?
Yeah, 3 houses back.
Okay.
And
But is
Dawn, there, correct me if I misspoke.
Is a DENREC inspection an inspection that's recognized, I guess, by all of Dewey and Sussex County, but that shouldn't be the only inspection, right?
They have to get a permit. They apply to DENREC, and the lady's name that is our contact is Jennifer Pondgrass. And if we have questions, we go to Jennifer, and I do that today. I had a couple of questions today on some permits. And and what their issue is, they don't care if it's interior construction. What they care is if there's an expansion of the property, of the structure in that
So
area.
they're only concerned if we're exceeding over the dune line, but they're not allowed, or they don't have authority to approve the construction of the work.
Well, they can deny it. They can deny them, we don't want you to build a deck within those 3 houses. It's not just over the dune line. It's back from the dune line and the building restriction line, 3 homes, 3 structures. So they can say, we don't approve of it. Now, I haven't heard them say that, but they do have that authority.
Right. What about what if something were done on the bay side or on?
Bayside's not involved. It's
Bayside,
really DENREC.
What happens in Indian Beach where there is no dune? Because they're building way in front of it. Where-
Well, we're not in Indian Beach. We don't
They
get it.
they don't enforce that?
I don't know. You'd have to talk to.
All right. So I kind of want to, the last thing I was going to do is I'm going to go through this and I want to comment, I'm going to solicit comment. So penalties for building non-compliance, building permit non-compliance. The town has a right to issue a stop work. Civil penalties up to $500 per day may be assessed for each day. The violation continues. Repeating offenses may incur escalating penalties up to $1,000 per day. I think that's the most that can be done is $1,000. You can issue it multiple times, escalate it. A surcharge of 100% of the permit original fee may be applied to retroactive permits issued after the unauthorized work has begun. The property owner shall be responsible for any corrective measures required to bring the work into compliance with applicable codes. If work cannot be brought into compliance, removal or restoration to the original condition may be ordered. Under liens, any unpaid fines, fees, or abatement costs may be recorded as a lien against the property. Legal action, the town reserves the right to pursue legal remedies, including injunctions or civil proceedings to enforce compliance. And the last thing I have here is just defining unsanctioned work. Any property owner, agent, or entity who undertakes work classified as maintenance, but which exceeds the scope of the defined non-structural maintenance activities would otherwise require a building permit shall be subject to enforcement actions, including but not limited to stop work orders, fines, and corrective measures as outlined above. So with that, I'm going to
I'm
invite.
sorry. Yeah.
I
So
wanna-
if a person applies for a permit, but it's not truthful, in including the full scope of work, that's a problem, I guess, right?
Right, yes, that's what we're saying.
Okay, thank you.
And are there any, so I'm going to do public, anyone in the room here have any comments that they want to bring up around what was presented?
Just that, I think for me, the only comment was that the town shall conduct inspections, because I do think we don't, I mean, one, is there a problem currently that someone says, I'm changing my kitchen cabinets, and we don't go in to inspect? I don't think we have those problems, so I don't think we want to add.
I'm going to disagree with you on that one. I think we do have a problem with enforcement. I do.
I want to clarify that to enforcement of structural, county-related enforcement. But if someone comes in and says, we're changing our kitchen cabinets, and they change their kitchen cabinets, and they change the tile and the floor in the kitchen, at what point when it's non-structural, do we hire more and more people and layer inspection processes in a 2x20 block town to the point where it's excessive?
I understand. Okay.
I mean, could you give me an example of one of those? I think structural, absolutely, 100%. Anything major the county deals with, anything major like you're building a roof deck, something like that. But do you want to go in and inspect kitchen cabinets?
So if the job's more than $10,000?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of the way we've done it, is right now, is that some level would trigger the enforcement cost. Maybe it's what level of enforcement
Mm-hmm.
that's valid on that. I mean, I think the county's doing structural, and I think they're doing electric, plumbing, right? So I wouldn't think those things would fall to the town, but what if somebody puts up a fence in the front yard that's 8 feet tall? Don't you think we should enforce that? Especially if it's.
I think if we have eyes, we see it.
The problem is, I understand you're saying if we have eyes, but is it self-enforcement? Is it neighbors enforcing it, or is it the town?
But can I
doing
say,
things?
David, I think the problem is we need to find a way to take time to educate our code people on actually what the code reads and what are the important parts of the code. Not just are they going out to find someone without a license performing work or performing without a building permit, but being able to say, oh, there's a fence that's too tall. There's a lot of fences in this town that are too tall, that are visible to the eye. I'm not sure our training has given people the resources to understand what the critical parts of the code are that you should be looking at when you go out. And I don't think we should be relying on neighbors. That's not a fair place to put it.
So we agree that enforcement is an important part.
I think it's education of enforcement. I don't think it's enforcement. I don't think, right now, I'm not sure that we provide enough education on literally saying these are the designated areas of the code that are high priority, very important. These are the middle levels, and you need to spend 10 hours a week reading these code sections. And we're gonna discuss them and understand that you understand the code, actually.
Right.
I think if you send someone out that doesn't know an 8-foot fence is not legal or illegal, then it's not helpful. And I think we need to do a better job of that versus neighbors. I just think if a 8-foot fence is visibly there for neighbors to call, why aren't we noticing it as the town?
That's my point.
Okay, well,
We're in agreement on that one. We
all right.
agree.
Well, maybe we were speaking a different
Yeah,
language.
I mean, I think we're in agreement, so. Okay.
Yeah.
Diane, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a few comments, Diane Hanson. One thing you should be aware of, that when we sent the notice out from the Civic League, it was sent out like about 8 o'clock at night, and we got 12 replies by the very next day. But when I went back and looked at the open rate, it was 97%. No one gets 97% open on an email. So it shows you how much people are interested in this. I think part of it, especially new property owners, haven't a clue. I think that the code department needs to send out more information about, and once we get this straightened out, maybe we can even have a Civic League program on this with an invite Dwayne and her assistant to tell people. The other thing that people are concerned about is it's more of a gotcha operation than anything else, and they don't do anything that helps the property owner. And I'll give you an example from way back when, but my home was built without flashing in the windows, but it wasn't just mine, it was 4 others built by the same builder. And that basically cost the 4 people in those homes $160,000 to take every freaking window and door out and put it back in with flashing. And they're oceanfront, so I mean, they started leaking, pretty quickly. But by then, the developer had changed his name and gone on with another company, so you couldn't even sue him if you had to. And the attorney said, unless it's $100,000, you can't, it's not worth it. But if they would find things like that, they could have saved property owners $160,000 just like that. But they don't, and so if they could do more along that line, I think people would feel better, more willing to pay the fees and be cooperative.
Yeah. What's the resume of our building inspectors? What's their background?
David, I'm gonna pause there. We're not going down that path here. We're just talking about what constitutes a building permit and the need. I don't want to get down the path of talking about people's qualifications.
That's the main thing.
Thank you.
That I want to say for now. But thank you for your working on this. I really appreciate you all doing this. This is something that should have been done a long time ago. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments online?
This is just a read, right? You're gonna.
Let's see what I can get you guys.
See what we can put through.
See if you can put through. I think it's got some sense of at least urgency or some sense of getting back to the commissioners. We put some recommendations together. They had questions for us. So my thought was if we can come to some agreement tonight on what we would recommend again. Once again, we're just going to recommend. It'll be up to the commissioners to take our recommendations or not. So that was my thought tonight. We'll see if the group agrees or not.
I'm still stuck on the minor property maintenance, like replacing the cabinets and countertops. Why is it even in there? Because it's going to be more than $1,000. Like you're giving them the perception that's on that list that says minor.
So your suggestion would be
Just get rid of it.
so replacing cabinets?
Also, replacing flooring. When you put hardwood floors in, it's going to be more than $1,000.
Are we not talking that this is under 10,000, or are we talking 1,000?
So this defines, so there's a, think of it this way, if it's less than $1,000 and maintenance, what's suggested is no permit. If it's between $1,000 and $10,000 and it's minor maintenance, notification, okay? That's what we're suggesting. No permit, but notification. If it's greater than $10,000, you're down like the traditional building permit, building application, building permit. Okay. Those are the kind of 3 decision points. But to Jimmy's point, what constitutes maintenance?
I mean, replacing windows and doors. You replace all the windows on your house. That's more than minor maintenance.
That's right. And it's going to be more than,
Right,
it's
so
going
why
to be,
even have it in here?
It's more than 2 windows, you need a county permit also.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
if I read this, I just say, oh, look, it's minor maintenance, I'm going to replace windows.
okay, so your suggestion would be drop the windows.
I don't know why it would be in there, because I don't know
Well,
that you can replace windows.
if you replaced a single window, $160 at Lowe's, 4 hours. So it's definitely under $1,000. If you were going into the frame that is there and you're not changing the structure. So it really is. I think it's part of what Jim said, where if somebody comes in and says, I'm replacing an 8x14 front window that's a sliding with, we know the window's more than $1,000 and they're gonna question it. And so there's just some common sense that has to go along with it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think,
I mean, I agree with the windows, but the flooring and the countertops, I don't know, it just,
So your suggestion would be,
I would remove the cabinets and countertops.
okay, so,
Because you know it's gonna be more than
Right.
1,000, under 10.
But I just ask you to think about it this way, in the common sense term. So these guys have been looking at these permits forever, decades. So if I come in and say I'm replacing my bathroom floor 3x5 in my powder room or my bathroom,
I need 2 more minutes, okay?
it definitely could be $700 all in, material and labor. But if I come in, I'm replacing the whole floor in my 1,000 square foot first floor, it's probably gonna be in the 1,000 to 10,000 range, and then it just requires a little more explanation, and then the town makes a judgment. I think it's a balance of not getting it so tight that we block ourselves into allowing some balance and judgment and reasonable, they are permitted to come back and ask for more, right?
right, yeah, the town reserves the right to have the property owner
Document more.
document what they've done in terms of labor and
I
material.
would say that whatever the notification is, we have to have something in writing, because we're gonna have to put it in, we have to keep a record of something.
Absolutely.
So that would-
So that was my, I mean, either, I say notification, either it's the existing building application, it's an email, it's some kind of email form, something like that. I don't have the answer for you, but there has to be some kind of form. You can't just ring up Jim Dedes and say, hey, Jim, I do that all the time, I know, but, no, but I agree with you. I think there needs to be some kind of formal notification, not just, good. Okay, who do we have online?
David Moskowitz.
Go ahead,
Sorry,
David.
you shifted from public comment to interjecting, but so I had a few comments. So one is the town historically doesn't conduct inspections because they don't want to be liable. The town had, when we were doing our deck, the town actually called my contractor and asked them if they did a good job. They didn't even walk the block, and the contractor said they did a good job, and they just signed off on the permit. That's the extent of what the town has done. I agree exactly, especially what Diane had just said, but there's also like, you could do a middle ground. And something like town inspections are performed to verify compliance with applicable codes and approved plans. They do not guarantee that quality, performance, or safety of the work. And the property owner and contractor remain fully responsible for that. Like, it would be more than what's happening now, and it would be better. So, I mean, there's no excuse. The town's building staff gets paid a lot of money. They could be doing at least a better job of inspecting that. Second, Dawn was tasked at maybe the September meeting. The last time the town got FEMA guidance was during the Obama administration, and then I heard even 2006 on the phone. Dawn was tasked with reaching out to FEMA and then finding out if this still applies, because it's been many administrations later. I understand the government got shut down, so I don't know if she reached out before and got an answer. But instead of trying to like guess yourself, oh, it should be $1,000, you really should get it from FEMA what it should be, because in looking at other areas, 1,000 is very low for permits. It builds a town database and creates work, even if you're not charging money, but you really should get the actual word from FEMA. Third is 30,000 is a big loss of revenue to the town. I would hope the town manager would agree to that. So, I mean, I think you should lower it to maybe 7,000. I think 10,000 is just a very high number. And then if someone has a project for 11,000, all of a sudden it's going to be 9,999. I really think you'd be better off making it 7,000, but also adding the caveat of putting a CPI in there, which the town doesn't have. So make it 7,000 plus it goes up every year. And then there's also on the high end, the town charges, I believe, like $150 on it over 15,000. That hasn't raised for many years. And it was supposed to be for complex projects. Well, 15,000 is not a complex project. I would like to see that increase to actually 20,000 and then increase every year per CPI. But the last thing is when you have your permit penalties, you don't have any defenses. So I think you need to put some sort of defense. And the defense would be an emergency condition. So in the event of an emergency condition that poses immediate risk to life, health, safety, or property, like if someone has a water flood, they're not going to apply for a building permit per se. or they lose their heat. So you should put there's valid defenses where they can reach the town afterwards, but you need to have some sort of defense in it, not just an offensive penalties. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Okay. Any other comment? Any other public comment? In the room, online? Okay. With that, then I'm going to go ahead and close public discussion. And I would like to solicit some suggestions. Can we come to some consensus on what our recommendations are going forward? If there's some, but we're not comfortable with all, we can do that. So let me start with the first one, and maybe it's going to take several votes to do this. But in terms of what we defined as maintenance, with what's on this list here, taking out, I guess the idea was replace cabinets or countertops with materials of like size, suggested to be struck. But any other comments from what is there under defined standards for minor property maintenance? Nope. Okay.
Just one comment. On the repairing flooring or drywall, I think you should just add or other wall or ceiling materials.
Yeah. Other wall?
Or ceiling materials.
Yep. Thank you. That's a good change.
I'm sorry, David, could you tell me, when you're going through this, painting, wallpapering, tiling, and all that kind of stuff, that's the one you're striking right now, correct?
The only one that was suggested to strike was replacing cabinets or countertops with like materials and size.
Okay, I meant, sorry, which bullet we're looking, I'm probably wrong thing.
Yeah, that's the last bullet under that defined standards for minor property maintenance.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. So I think the way I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna ask for, a motion, thank you, a motion to approve these minor property maintenance definitions.
Give a motion for number 1 for approval.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, is just this first piece.
Yeah.
The definition and what we've listed here is items for maintenance.
Yes.
So do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion, thank you, Marcia.
I agree.
Thank you. Jimmy, what we just did is we did a motion to approve the definition of maintenance and the items we discussed down below with your change suggesting replacing cabinets and countertops to be struck, and Marcia's suggestion that we say repairing drywall or other wall or ceiling materials. So that was the suggested change. So I've got a motion first and a second, and I'm going to ask for a vote. Jimmy?
We still add things to that in the future?
Absolutely. Right, so I just wait, this is just
Just the beginning.
for the beginning now, but it's to get something, commissioners, they can alter it any way they want. So, can I get a vote? Marcia?
Yes.
Jimmy?
Aye. Yes.
Elaine?
Aye.
Diane?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
And I'm also going to vote yes. So that is carried. Let's move down to the next section, which is standards for soliciting a permit. So I think the big thing to focus in here is how we define minor property maintenance, intermediate maintenance, and projects. So my question is, as written, is there any, can I get a motion to adopt those?
I was just looking. I make the motion.
Thank you. And a second?
Sorry, so Dave, this is standards for soliciting permit?
Yeah, so this is section number 2, standards for soliciting a permit.
So down to maintenance activities is what you're including here.
That's correct.
Okay.
So I have a,
Can you just read the examples real quick under that?
which one, where do you need an example in?
I feel like I'm looking at the wrong thing. Replacing windows and doors at the same size without altering structure. Is that one of the painting, wallpapering, tiling? Is
Yeah,
that,
so what we did above is we defined what maintenance was.
yeah,
And then in this section, what we're talking about is what's construed as minor maintenance, which is less than $1,000.
right,
And then what we call intermediate maintenance, which is $1,000 to $10,000, labor
Right.
and materials. And then what we say is a permit threshold activity is over $10,000. That's
Okay.
basically what we're suggesting in this section. Okay, second. I do want to point out that what is in here, because it was a hot topic, was that the HOA, that the homeowner will self-attest. That's what's in here right now. Self-attest, we're not enforcing, we're not notifying, a self-attest. That's all we would be recommending at this point.
Homeowner signing.
Yes, to be homeowner signing. Okay, with that, then let's go ahead and take a vote. Marcia?
Aye.
Jimmy?
Yes.
Elaine?
yes,
Diane?
No,
Okay,
because of the lack of notice to the HOA.
no problem. David?
I agree with Diane. I think the HOA has to be aware of it.
Okay. I am going to vote yes. So it does carry 4 in favor. All right. Let me move forward from there, which would be a discussion on enforcement, actions around enforcement. I need to go through that. I'll give everybody a minute to look at it. Is there a motion to adopt our terms here for enforcement?
Real quickly, remind us about the enforcement?
Sure. So the key points are the town reserves the authority to request documentation verifying any maintenance work, regardless of whether it was submitted or not. The town reserves the authority to require documentation verifying that a valid business license is required or obtained. Towns shall conduct inspections of all work performed under an issued building permit. The property owner is responsible for paying the fee equivalent to the cost of the inspection required for permit verification. The town retains the authority to designate the inspection official. And last is the town shall maintain records of all intermediate maintenance or permit threshold activity building permits issued over a rolling 10-year period. If the property owner is found to have conducted multiple maintenance activities which, when considered cumulatively, constitute work requiring a building permit, the owner shall be subject to enforcement actions for permit noncompliance.
How does Sussex County tie into the inspection process?
I would suggest we don't change their role.
Right.
I'm not going to, I don't want that to depend upon them inspecting my property and going as far as you were talking about earlier. Because we bring on our own experts, making sure that people are not building something that they're not supposed to be building, and the things that Jim Dede's talked about that they already do. That seems appropriate. I don't know about putting, so I say no to this. I wouldn't vote for it as it's written.
But I'm saying no because of 3 and 4.
Well, let me interrupt you for a minute. Let's just,
Is there,
yeah, so I guess what we need to do is I'll present it as a whole, and if we turn it down, then we can maybe suggest that an alternative. So let me approach it the way it is. So is there a motion to accept enforcement as written? All right. So, all right, that fails. Then I'd like to say, is there in here an agreement or some discussion that we want to suggest for enforcement?
I'd be in favor of 1 and 2. I wouldn't vote for 3 because it says the town shall, and shall pretty much means they must. And I think then we're opening up a whole new level of personnel and expertise. And then I think for number 4, I just don't think we should go backwards to cumulative, what somebody's done on smaller projects to accumulate to be enforceable for a larger
So the only reason,
equivalent.
yeah, the only reason I'm bringing it up, it is a FEMA requirement, right, that you're supposed to look back. So there's a requirement from the FEMA perspective
okay.
to look back. I don't think we have not gone back 10 years, is my recollection of the discussion. So we haven't been. But the town is officially on the hook for, to be able to say, are you doing multiple? Because the thought is, if you're doing multiple maintenance, at some point, are you now becoming a significant improvement that you've done to the property that now exceeds 50%? That's just FEMA's rules. I'm not suggesting one way or the other, but that is what they suggest. So the only thing here is that we would be in compliance with what FEMA's requirement is. Jim?
Dawn and I had a series of discussions.
We can't hear him.
He's coming.
He's getting it.
I'm getting it. Dawn and I have had a series of discussions about that. Right now, we meet the requirements for FEMA. Our ordinance does not include the maintaining a 10-year record. So we're okay because we follow our ordinance. FEMA has not said we're not in non-compliance. I think the issue really is how do we, if we keep a record of that, it's not going to change a whole lot. And the reason I say that is because home prices go up all the time. So you always have to get we make a judgment call. They don't like the idea, but we do make a judgment call as to if somebody's renovating their house and we looked at a house, it costs them $1 million to build it, and they do a kitchen for $90,000, we'll say they don't meet the requirement for 50%. Down the road, the homes are probably going to go up. So it changes all the time. I would say hold off on that one until we can get Dawn and I can have a better way of explaining whether or not we're in compliance or non-compliance. But they didn't challenge us on it the last visit we had.
So the suggestion is to strike that 10 years.
I would suggest that you all consider striking it, and then we can review it later.
Okay. I want to come back to the enforcement, see if there's some wording that everybody might feel comfortable with, which is, what if the town reserves the right to perform inspections for all work issued under a building permit?
I was okay with that.
You're okay with that?
Could we?
I wasn't okay with having them to be responsible for inspecting things. Bad building is everything that Diane Hansen was talking about. I think we've all experienced it, and I don't think we can make the town responsible for coming in and looking about all of the code for plumbing and everything, that they can actually do that. But them coming in, being more involved would be good. So I'm okay with that. Just not expecting them to do a final walkthrough or something.
So I think that's a good point, is that the town doesn't want to get involved in the quality of the work performed. It's simply, I think, it should be in compliance with what was originally submitted and meets the code.
But who's interpreting that? What's the building permit fee give you to the homeowner? There should be someone coming there inspecting the rough-in plumbing, electric, mechanical, and plumbing, framing, insulation, and then, a final inspection. What are we paying the building permit fees for? What does that give us? No protection?
It's the county. It's the county.
Go ahead.
Is the county coming in inside the house?
Yes, the county comes in, maybe. I can't say when. They make a decision as to whether or not a full inspection or no inspection is required. And they put that down on the application. And it's put down without building code or with building code. So it's up to them. We are responsible for enforcing zoning requirements. That's what really our target is, to make sure that they're in compliance, that they build to the proper height restriction, they build the fences according to the way they're supposed to build them. And we do that. The setbacks are met. So we do measurements on that. We make sure that like driving, the driveways are the minimum requirement, which is 9 by 18. We do those things. Yes, that's what we do. And we respond to complaints.
So there's no oversee of construction, just zoning. That's all we're paying for is
Just zoning and compliance with the building.
That's a big gap. I think that's a major gap in the construction business, that no one's inspecting framing, drywall, insulation, fire caulking, etc. I mean, it's just like the Wild West. We have to have,
And nobody's looking at renovations. That's another big gap.
No, that really is not true. On a renovation, the county will come in. If you're doing a major renovation or an addition, they will inspect that. The issue really is.
No, that's not true.
I'm just telling you what they're responsible for.
But they don't fulfill that responsibility.
Well, if you feel that.
They've said it's up to the town. I've been through that.
Okay, well, I can't, I don't know the issues behind that. But if you're doing a major renovation, an interior renovation, for example, if you're just you're adding a closet, you're doing some things like that, or you want to put a fireplace in, they really don't even get into that. They just look at structural issues. That's their requirement. Ours is really to make sure that, if you want us to come in to do an inspection did we do the right thing by applying for a permit, we'll come in for you. But other than that, really their issue is the same issue we take. It's between you and your contractor. And we've had issues where people are unhappy with contractors. And we really tell them then, you really need to make sure don't go for the cheapie. Make sure you follow up the qualifications and you get recommendations.
I think this is a major gap in Dewey Beach. I don't know any other locality that you pay a building permit fee and you don't get inspection fees for what your money pays for.
Okay.
We have no coverage, we have no protection from the contractors, and the homeowner, who's not a builder, is relying on the contractor, but who's checking the contractor for code issues? Nobody.
Okay, I just want to say quickly about this is that I do think that there is a safety net that the town could provide, but I don't think that the idea that your contractor in any city that you live in, they're coming in to make sure that that builder is following code. What it is usually after an accident, and then they find out that the person didn't have the plumbing license they were supposed to have for the state, or they didn't have the the electricians working. That's how they usually find out about this stuff, and then their license are pulled.
Yeah.
But I think that one thing that the town could do with these licenses, which I've actually been pushing for a long time, is they could do random inspections of when somebody that they have issued a license to, that the person who's actually doing the plumbing or electrical work are actually working under permits that the state makes them have, licensing that the state makes them have. And if you find out that those people don't have those licenses, because then you have somebody to report it to and they get in trouble. So I think that instead of the quality of work is an inspection of like the people who are actually doing the work that are working in our town. If that could happen, that's how I deal with it in my condo association. We don't allow anybody to work on electricity unless they have the education and the state license.
Yeah.
And so I think that we have a lot of the biggest problem that you're having with building is a lot of people that are not real journeymen, as they'd say, like maybe New Jersey or something, doing things. And so that's what you're running into problems with some of the building.
So in Dewey, is the electrician pulling an electrical permit? Is the plumber pulling a plumbing permit?
They don't pull permits like that, do they, Jim?
No. They apply for a regular permit application as any contractor would, and we do ask for licensing from the state as well when they apply for a permit. So if they don't get that, and by the way, it's a $75 fee, that's all it is. And whether the state monitors it, I don't know.
Well, that's right. No one is monitoring the workman, not even the workmanship. If
the electricians monitor themselves.
Yeah, but it's the hen watching the hen house.
But
Yeah, you can look up.
What you're saying is a problem for the entire Sussex County, not just Dewey Beach or Rehoboth or any of those. my sense is if the town wants us to go and hire a contractor, we have one right now, we're paying on a very large project, it's costing us $125 an hour. Now, if the property owner wants to pay that, we'll add that, we're happy to try to get a contractor. And
Well,
if
I
the
thought you answered
Yeah.
that. I thought why can't we just include the inspection fees, even if by a third-party engineer or a real construction inspector,
Okay.
put it in the permit fee?
Yeah, okay.
That's
so-
up to the
Thank you.
commissioners.
So that's, David, I just want to interrupt. So we pulled I didn't get a movement on as it was written, on the whole group. So the idea was to come back and say, is there a piece some of this that we can adopt and push forward? So,
I would make a motion to adopt the first two, 1 and 2, and 3 and 4 for further discussion.
What is 1 and 2?
1 and 2 is.
First two
Yes, the town
paragraphs.
reserves the authority to request documentation verifying maintenance, and the town reserves the right to require documentation verifying that a valid business license is obtained.
Yes, I would definitely approve that.
By the contractor, right? Business
Yes,
license.
that's the contract. The business license is the town, right? Okay. So I think what we're going to do is let's take a vote on those 2 items. All right. So Marcia,
Yes, aye.
Jimmy,
Aye.
Elaine, Elaine,
Aye.
Diane,
Aye.
and David.
Aye.
I'm also going to vote aye. Then I'm going to suggest, can I get a motion to table this discussion on conducting building inspections until the next meeting? What I think we as a group should,
I make a motion, we table
okay,
Second.
the inspection.
yeah. And
10-year plan.
and the 10-year. And then, okay, so I got a first and a second. Let's vote. Marcia,
Yes, aye.
Jimmy,
Aye.
Elaine. And the motion is to table. We're tabling inspections. We're tabling enforcement.
How long are we going to table this? Because we're issuing building permits every day, every week. And I think Dewey's a scary place to build.
So we're going to certainly table it until the next meeting. We're going to have to come up with something that's more palatable to everybody so we can have a more of a discussion. So David, are you in favor of tabling it?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I'm also going to vote yes. We'll table
Yes.
it. Right? And Marcia, I got you. So that's everybody. All right. I'm also going to suggest, since we're talking about enforcement, that we'll also table item 4, which is compliance, or what happens for non-compliance. All right. That agreeable?
Yes.
All right. So we'll just, all in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Then with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we
Yeah, please.
Yeah. I'll take that as a second, Lane. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.